I promise I did not mean to match my coffee mug today, but it ended up happening, and I'm not even mad at it. It's kind of a vibe, okay? I'm kind of here for it. Hey, hi, hello, welcome back to my channel. I'm Jesse, and today I'm going to be talking about popular books that I will never read. Or probably will never read, because there is the chance that some of you will pop off in the comments and convince me to read your favorite books. Because oftentimes I'm like, I'll never read this, and then you guys come in with your convincing comments, and then I'll be like, maybe I will read it eventually. But until that happens, it's a no-no, it's a no-go, not happening. I've done this video a few times in the past, and I always really enjoy talking about things that I'm just not interested in picking up. And I think it's because I, more times than not, keep this channel pretty positive. I talk about things that I love often. I do critique books, but I feel like I critique them lightly. I'm very nice in critiquing books. And honestly, just because this is a negative video concept doesn't mean that I'm gonna come in here and just like go off on these books. It doesn't mean I'm gonna be wearing my negative Nancy pants today. In fact, I've got my Jolly Jesse jeans on. Jolly Jesse jeans. What is this, the Disney Channel? I feel like for a lot of these books, they just don't interest me in the slightest. They're maybe in a genre that I steer clear of, or maybe I'm just tired of seeing them and have no desire to read them. Sometimes seeing a book too often is in fact a bad thing. I know it's a marketing tactic, but I get to a point where I want to poke because of the fact that I'm tired of seeing some of these book covers. I'm tired. And then there's a situation where I've read the description and I just know it's not going to be for me. So like, why would I read the book when I know it's not going to work for me? No shade, no tea, just not for me. I know I shouldn't do a disclaimer, but I'm gonna do a disclaimer. Just because I'm talking about these books in this video doesn't mean you're not allowed to like them. You're allowed to like them. They're just books that I don't feel like are gonna be for me, so I'm going to avoid them. And I'm also not here to shame you today. I never want to make anybody feel bad for liking a book. Like, you are allowed to like a book. Just because I'm not interested in reading it doesn't mean you're not allowed to love that thing with all that you've got. Keep loving books, keep reading things that you'll enjoy. Now let's get on to the list. The first one on my list is Ironflame. This one is pretty obvious for me. I get the hype surrounding the dragon book, and I'm not mad about the hype surrounding the dragon book. Am I tired of seeing Fourth Wing everywhere? Oh besties, am I tired? I'm exhausted. It's one of those things where I'm like, I love that so many people are passionate about this book, that there's a community surrounding this book, that people can like join a fandom. I'm not gonna be the one to come in and blow out your candle, like let that little light shine, keep it burning, that iron flame. But I'm so tired of seeing it. And I think it's just because it's everywhere right now. Every time I log on to Goodreads, somebody's reading it. Every time I open Instagram, it's on my Instagram feed. TikTok, oh, it's on TikTok for sure. If I walk into a bookstore, it's on every display ever. And it's just like one of those books that you can't avoid. Like, no matter what, you're gonna run into it. Anyway, all that to say, I read Fourth Wing. I read the dragon book. It was one of those situations where curiosity got to the best of me. Like, because I was seeing it everywhere, I was like, okay, I'm gonna give in. I'm gonna read it. So I read it. And like, I more so read it to just kind of like understand the hype. And in reading it, I figured out what the hype was all about. I get why people like it. But I personally did not find myself loving it. I could have done without the cringy dialogue and also the thirsting over all the hot people. I was just kind of over it. It's one of those books where I was just like constantly rolling my eyes and constantly just being like, just like that. And I am just not going to force myself to read a book that I'm not sure I'm gonna like. And there's been such a mixed bag of reactions to Ironflame itself. Like, I've heard people say it's so bad and that it reads like an AI generated book. But then on the flip side, I've heard people say it's better than Fourth Wing. So I'm like, what's the truth, people? I'm not gonna tiptoe my way into this book and try to figure out what the truth is. I will just step outside of the Fourth Wing verse and just accept the fact that I'm not gonna be able to find out what happens next. Or if I really care to find out what happens next, I'll just find a way to spoil myself. But I just feel like that mixed bag of reactions is just very telling that everybody has such a different experience with books. But again, I've decided that it's not for me. I will not be taking the plunge into Ironflame, and I honestly, as much as I like want you guys to keep loving the books that you love, like keep loving Fourth Wing, keep loving Ironflame, I just really hope that the hype settles down a little bit and that I don't see it everywhere I go, because I'm just tired. Speaking of oversaturation, lessons in chemistry. The way I see this book everywhere, it's gotten to a point where like when I close my eyes at night, lessons in chemistry is there to greet me. It's like, oh, you want to go to bed? No, you're gonna think about me, and I'm tired of it. Get out of my head. It's gotten to a point where it's just one of those covers now that makes me want to go poke. And the thing is, I'm sure it's decent. It has like a 4 point something on Goodreads, and that's with like over 1 million ratings, which that is impressive. That is impressive to have that many people reading your book and to have an average star rating of 4 point something. Like, that's crazy. That means not only are a lot of people reading this book, but they're rating it highly. But here's the thing, you know when you just like get a vibe from a book and it's not a good vibe? Like, you just look at it and you know it's not gonna go down in the way that you want it to go down. You know it's not gonna go down a positive path. It's gonna be a situation situation where you're gonna start reading it and you're gonna be the one person that hates it. That's my fear with this book. Like, I don't want to be the outcast. I was the outcast recently with Dig by A.S. King. I read Dig recently and didn't love it, which made me sad, and then I had all these people coming and being like, Dig is one of my favorite books. I love Dig. I'm so sad you didn't love Dig, and I'm just like, throw salt in my wound. Feels really good to be excluded from the Dig love party. And going into this one, I feel like there's pressure for it to be a good read. I want to be like all the other girls. I want to join the love club. I want to be a lover, not a hater. So I will in fact be holding myself back from reading this book just in case it is one of those situations where I end up in a hate fest. Next we've got Icebreaker. Now listen, I have fully boarded the romance train. Like, at this point I'm almost the conductor, okay? I'm a full-on romance boy now, and I used to quake at the sight of a romance in a book. But now my TBR is plagued with romance books, so what does that tell you? This is one of those books for me where I just cannot convince myself that it will be worth it, or that it's going to be something that I end up liking. And the thing is, the description is really cute, but it also is giving me Hallmark vibes, which is not necessarily a bad thing. Like, sometimes you want a Hallmark movie vibes book, okay? I did read a romance book during the holidays that felt very Hallmarky to me, and I think it was like very eye-opening in the fact that like I don't enjoy my books to be Hallmark movie style. Like, if I want a Hallmark movie, I'll just go over to my parents' house because my mom is a ride or die for Hallmark movies. She just constantly has them going. Like, catch her in July fully having a Christmas Hallmark movie on. Also, I've heard that the relationship element within this book definitely falls into an insta-love place, and that's just not the trope for me. I know that that will fill me up with frustration. For me, with romance books, if you're gonna have insta-love as a part of the romance, you've gotta make up for that by having a really interesting plot. Like, I've gotta be sold on another element within the story to kind of overlook that insta-love situation. And I just don't foresee that happening with this one, so I'm just gonna skate on out of here. And I'm probably gonna slip and fall and pass away because I don't remember the last time I even put on skates. This one might be surprising, and that is Carrie Soto is Back. I used to be the type of person where, like, if I loved an author's work, then I felt the need to read everything ever by them. But I'm trying to change my ways a little bit. Like, if an author I love writes a book that I am not interested in, that is my time, that is my money. I don't have to force myself to read a book just because an author I love wrote it. Shocking information. I just used to have this like very ride or die mindset for these authors that I love, and felt the need to pick up everything that they came out with, even if I wasn't interested in it. And like, full stop, Jesse, let's not be doing that. Because if a book doesn't sound interesting to you, guess what? No one's forcing you to read it. Anyway, when Carrie Soto is Back was announced, I was like, oh, that don't sound very interesting to me. But I think at that point I had at least read Evelyn Hugo, and I was like, this book is my everything. So I felt like I had to read this book. But guess what? I'm not going to be doing that. I really feel like this is somewhat a recycled storyline of some of her other books. I just feel like in some ways it feels similar to Daisy Jones and Evelyn Hugo. It's very much so focused on someone who is like wrapped up in their field of work and like all the trauma that comes within that field of work. And in some ways it's a field of work that's like kind of star-studded. Like, it's about a tennis player who is a star. Daisy Jones was about a group of musicians who were in the spotlight. Evelyn Hugo is obviously about a famous actress. And I just feel like, while I'm sure she can like bring in new elements to that storyline, I just don't know that I care. I don't think I care. That's the truth. That's the truth. And like, no shame to the author where you kind of like stick to somewhat of a theme with your books. Like, there's no shame in that, and like, I'm not mad at it. I think it's just because I've seen her kind of take her characters on journeys like this before that it just does not interest me that much. So I'm passing on it. Next we've got This Woven Kingdom. I love you, Tahara Mafi, but after being incredibly underwhelmed by kind of the direction the Shatter Me series went in and how it wrapped and came to an end, I don't think I can commit to another long series from her. And this is going to be more than a trilogy. I know that there are 3 books out right now, but she says she has plans to extend it. I just don't think that I can do it. Mind you, if the final book in the series comes out and people are like still raving about the books, then like, my interest will in fact be piqued. There is a chance that I will like go back on my word and pick up this series. But I think because I had such a mixed experience with Shatter Me, where like I loved the writing style, I loved the characters, but just did not like the plot, I just don't think I will ever truly get the urge to read this series. Like, I just don't foresee that happening. Back to Shatter Me, by the way, I don't think that that series should have been extended. Like, I think it should have stayed a trilogy. Even if I wasn't like the most satisfied with how the trilogy came to a close, I don't think the 3 books that followed were worth it. And that's a hill I'm willing to die on. Consider me dead. You know what I really want to see from Tahara Mafi? An adult novel. Give it to us, queen. I need it. Next we've got Twisted Love. It's a no for me, love. I have read samples from these books, and I just know that they're books that I would suffer through. I'm not trying to bash people who love these books, because what makes me suffer might do something for you. might be the moon on a platter. But for me, I just no. It's just nope, fam. The writing style itself just like gives me the biggest ick in the way that it describes things. It feels very like... Well, let me just like read you the first line of the first book in the voice that enters my head when I read it.
He has a heart of ice, but for her, he'd burn the world. Alex Volkov is a devil blessed with the face of an angel and cursed with a past he can't escape.
Like, that's the narration style that entered my head when I first read that first line, and I was like, nope, I ain't doing that. It's not happening. I can't read a book and have that be in my head the whole time I'm reading it. I just can't do it, and I'm not gonna do it. Next, we've got the Zodiac Academy series. I actually tried to read the first book, Zodiac Academy, and I really enjoyed certain elements of it, but then there were like also parts of it that like had me wanting to like just chuck the book across the room in annoyance. I thought the plot was like really exciting and fun, but that's really where things ended for me. The writing style is a full-on mess, and that's not to say that the writing style needs to be perfect to have a good story, but I just think like the style that I personally enjoy when reading, it didn't match up for me with that book. But it is also a story that like heavily swings itself into the romance field, and I just wasn't willing to walk through that. Like, as much as I'm a romance person now, I think with like fantastical books, I'm okay with there being like a subplot that has romance in it, but like when it kind of consumes the plot, I just can't get on board with it. It's just not my vibe. I'm not into it. Next, we've got From Blood and Ash. I actually had received a copy of this from an Illumicrate package at one point, and I tried reading a little bit of it, and I just knew pretty quickly that it wasn't going to be a book for me. I will say that I do think that I enjoy Jennifer L. Armentrout's writing style. It's very accessible and kind of like easy to fall into. It's got like a very addictive quality to it, which I love in a book. I love when a book's writing style is just able to like just full on get you in a chokehold and just like hold your attention the whole way through. Not all books are that way. Like, some books are harder to kind of get into because of the writing style. Jennifer L. Armentrout, she's got it mastered. She knows how to get you. She sets her traps and it's easy to get caught up in. I tried out the Lux series by her at one point, and let me tell you, it was a good time. Would recommend that good time. It's basically Twilight, but with aliens. But my taste in books has changed significantly, and knowing the reader that I am today and the type of books that I gravitate towards, I just don't know that this would have me like flailing about in the love pool. I think I'd end up kind of drowning in the hater pool, and like, I'm not looking to drown. So it's a pass for me. The Night and Its Moon. This author lost me when they started attacking reviewers on burner accounts and also had their friends attack reviewers. Like, please, go outside, breathe some fresh air, and get a hobby. A hobby that does not fall under authors behaving badly. Thank you. Thank you very much. Next on my list, I have Romebreaker. This is the author that brought us Red Queen, and I'm already having a hard time as it is committing to the Red Queen series. Like, I go back and forth on being like, oh, I'm gonna commit to it. Oh, I'm gonna ditch it. Oh, I'm gonna commit to it. Oh, I'm gonna ditch it. What's the answer, Jesse? Like, what's gonna happen in this scenario? And I just feared that my experience with these books would be similar. Also, I just don't feel like the plot itself is that intriguing to me. In fact, see, I love Red Queen and I will defend it. I will defend it, okay? I think it's a really good time. It is a very cliche series, but I also recognize that it's a very cliche series. I recognize the fact that like it's just a bunch of popular YA books kind of mushed together into one. And dare I say that that's what this one feels like too. Like, I haven't read reviews or anything to like know what people even think of this book. I do know that it's like fairly popular, but I don't know if it's similar in the fact that like it feels like she just like morphed together a bunch of YA books to bring together this one, but I will not be finding out because I will not be reading Romebreaker. The last book on my list is Haunting Adeline. No, the end. Those are books on my list of popular books that I will never read, my ongoing list that seems to get bigger and bigger and bigger each year. But now I want to hear from you guys down below in the comments whether you want to convince me to read a book on this list. Go for it. Convince me. Write that essay convincing me to read the book. Or just let me know down below in the comments popular books that you refuse to read. Popular books that you have no interest in picking up. We all have them. I know you all got some, so drop yours down below in the comments. If you like this video, be sure to go and hit that like button. If you want to see more bookish content from me, be sure to go and hit subscribe or go and hit that bell icon and you'll be notified every time I post new videos. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope your day is bright, that tomorrow is brighter. Keep reading what your heart desires, and I will see you soon with a new video. Bye.